Okay, so this is the t-shirt design I did for Warframe. They had a contest about a week ago. They invited all of their player or their player base to do designs for their t-shirt, or a design for a t-shirt using, well, Warframe. This is the design I did. It's in black. This is the black background. This is the one, same design, in the white background. This is the design, but this is the Artprint version. The t-shirt design version is much simpler, simply because the detail that's in this design does not show up very well on any type of printed t-shirts. The type of t-shirt that you use, not to mention the color of the t-shirt, dramatically affects the type of design that's printed on it, whether it's the old silk screening or if it's the new modern day printing that they have. In any case, I've noticed my design in particular with all these multiple details does not print well on t-shirts. I've tried several times, and basically I always have to simplify the design to have it look anything decent. Okay, so this is the design in the white version. This is the design in the black version. And this is the full design, i.e. the Artprint design. And let me show you a bit on Illustrator how I went about creating this design. First things first, this is the Warframe logo. Their logo is very clean, there's not much stuff going on with it, so I was able just to bring their logo into Illustrator and vectorize it. Once I did that, I went to Warframe has a feature in their game called Captura. Their Captura scene allows you to take an image of your Warframe. I was there for like maybe an hour or so, just jumping around with Ivara over and over and over again until I got this amazing shot. Once that's done, you bring the same image into Illustrator, and you kind of like trace over it or copy over it with the pen tool. Right here. Once you have the base image traced over the way you want it, you can discard the image that you brought in to begin with. There's multiple elements in this design which need to be created first before you end up with something like this, the Artprint version. Let me show you how I start to create those elements. Okay, just a white screen, that way I know what I'm working on. There's also a black version because based on the design you're doing, sometimes it's just easier to see it in black. There's also a blue version. Most people tend to use a gray. I just chose the blue because I liked it. Okay, elements. This box and a box and a box and a box and then several boxes is used for this element. This triangular blue element is basically just this box in a box, 45 degree. This is basically the same thing. I created a blue box, created smaller blue boxes, and turned it with 45 degree. Illustrator has a unique function where it lets you take a flat image, a flat box image, say this black box, and you can 3D it. to effects, 3D, extrude and bevel. Say preview, say OK, and there you have a 3D box. Don't need this, I want to delete this layer. Let's go back into this. Okay, this layer has multiple layers in it. They're nested, that's the term for it. And take these off. And take these off, and then work my way up. So once again, I started with a square, turned it on to 45, did the same with these. Square, turned it on to 45. Then take the same layer, change the opacity. Opacity is 100. Select these. You can really go in there and change the opacity of anything. That's it. That basically means that one layer of color is not as dark as the layer of color above it or below it. Undo that. Let's close this. Turn this layer on. This layer is just the arrow layer, but it does also contain that 3D element, i.e. these boxes. If you look up here, those 3D boxes is basically the 3D element. You take the flat image, you 3D it, and there's a option in there to just do the outside, the lines, or you could do the entire box. I chose to just do the outside, i.e. the lines. That way you get this nice ghost effect. This is quite interesting, so I'm going to zoom in a bit for y'all to see. Now, in truth, you'll never see this in a t-shirt design. You might barely be able to make it out, but in an Artprint design, this takes on a greater role. This definitely becomes noticeable, and the person that's viewing the Artprint will definitely see this. Let's see. This for the time being. Now I'm just going to turn all of these off, and then I'm going to turn them back on. The bottom layer is clearly just white boxes with different opacities to them. And what I did, I copied one box, put it next to the other one, copied it again, and copied it up. Okay, and then just copied and paste all over. To select all of them, I did the same thing with the circles. Now what you do is, to make it interesting, you layer them. You literally just layer them on top of each other. That way it gives a more of a 3D, almost spatial effect to it. You put in some color, just to make it look like the image of the Cephalon image. That's not Cephalon. It's one of the Cephalons from Warframe. And once again, you do the same thing. You copy, you paste, and you layer. And it gives this really very nice 3D effect, almost ghost image of what appears to be a computer circuit. That's all this is. It's a background image. And as you can see, it doesn't even match up. There is clearly a mismatch right here. It's there just to cover a certain area. Once I'm done with this file, I'll show you what I did with this image, or the background image afterwards. This is interesting, so let me show you what happens here. Now for the Artprint version, these triangular lines look great. But if you try to do this on a t-shirt, because this is at 30% opacity, and some of these down here are even less, they're like 20% opacity, you would almost never see it on a t-shirt. It'll look as if the printer didn't even print it. So it's kind of a waste for me to include this on the final t-shirt design, i.e. this one. Once again, this is just part of the background image to help keep the eye moving, to give you something interesting to look at than just the main image. This particular layer is here to give a variant, because I don't want everything in the background layer to have the same feel to it. As such, if I put on the black layer now, which is why I have it, you can see how it changes the entire look of the image. You can see that there's a white smoke or fog almost passing through the image. That way this blue up here isn't quite the same as this blue down here. And that's important for an art print. Now, when it comes to a t-shirt design, that becomes problematic. There might be a place for it, but I did not choose to leave that in. This game, these elements was just created. It was basically a box. Within a box, copy, paste it, turn to a 45 degree, and then put on to its own layer. It was then copy and paste it again for every single one of these tiny little boxes. There's a reason why some of the lines right here cut off, and that's because of the main image. The main image literally falls directly over those boxes. So you can see, I wanted to cut those lines away. That way they didn't specifically interact with this main image. Because you see right here, if I zoom in, we have the line going right through not only the bow and the arrow, but right through the arm of the main image. And that just didn't look right. These are the box-like images, and it did not look good at all. So in the other file, I'll show you what I did. Well, I can show you right here. I basically just went in and cut those lines away. That way this line didn't go right through her foot, and this one didn't do the same. It's the Warframe logo. Once again, like I said, they have a very clean logo, and most logos are designed that way on purpose. At least nowadays anyway, because they need to not only print it, they need to have it online, they need to put it on t-shirts. As such, this logo was just easy to copy, bring it into, like I said, Illustrator, vectorize it, copy it, and paste it. Here's the white version of it. It's basically the same logo, just, well, white instead of black. Alright, I'm gonna turn this one off. Again to the even more complex Artprint version. There is the blue and yellow background that no longer has that mismatch. It's actually fixed now. On that background, even though it goes all the way up, you only see approximately that much of it. This top part you don't even see, but I want to keep it in just in case I need it for later. It's just this layer is literally the very background layer, but multiplied like over a dozen times onto itself, and then the angle was made extremely steeper. That way I had it looked better, at least in my opinion. once again, another addition to the background layer. That way it's not just a flat 2-color image, because I want this to be an art print, so that way it looks good. If you have just two very large 2 colors in the background, there's not much for the eye to move around with. If you create an art print, at least in my opinion, you want the person to enjoy what they're looking at. You want them to look up here and say, ooh, that looks nice over there. You want them to look over here and say, ooh, that looks nice over there. You want them to look over here and say, ooh, that's nice over here. That doesn't mean that you want to take away from the entire overall image, which is why the overall image in this particular design is centered. But at the same time, you want a background layer that's interesting to the person that's viewing it. You want them to be able to look at the upper left, at the upper right, in the center, at the bottom, and you want to keep their eyes moving around. That way they can appreciate the entire design, not just a portion of it. I tend to use multiple lines. I tend to change the lines, I change the colors of the lines, I change the thickness of the lines, I change the separations in between the lines. That way, when you look at something, see over here, this image and this part of the image is completely different than something over here. I don't like having static backgrounds where it's just a straight blue or a straight green or anything like that. If I want to design something, I want it to be interesting. Let you look up here in the corner and know that this part of the corner is different than literally this part of the corner. It's more background layers. The more you add to the background, the more variant there is. As such, it gives the person that's viewing it a more, what's the term? I don't know, where's Waldo effect. They're looking at the background, they're looking at the image, they're looking at various parts of the image to see what's different, what's changed, what's new, what's not over here, what's over here. But, oh, this is over here, it's not over here, and this looks completely different than what's over here. Midground. Now, you want that to be interesting because that, in the most part, is going to interact mostly with the foreground image. I've already explained this, as you can see though, with this, as opposed to the t-shirt version. It is extremely more complex. It's separated, it has a white background, it has a black background, the black background has different lines connected to it. It's there's opacity added to it, as opposed to the t-shirt version. The t-shirt version, if still screen, would end up looking quite horrible. You end up with all sorts of messes going on. That's why I decided to instead simplify this image, as opposed to the Artprint version. There's some of the background elements kind of brought forward into almost the middle ground, just to once again change up the way one is viewing it. Plus, I kind of liked that background element. I wanted to give it a bit more of a impact, so bringing it forward a bit. Did that because that kind of fog layer, that kind of cloud layer, which changed up the various colors. That way, once again, over here, the orange, pink, blue, green, black, whatever is over here, is not the same color anymore as, I don't know, the one that's literally right across from it, because it doesn't have that opaque white layer over it. The orange here is more intense, the red is more intense, the black is more intense, and so is the blue. That's an element which changes various aspects of this midground and background. And that's good because it's not flat. It's supposed to be an art print. You're supposed to enjoy what you're looking at, not just look at a flat image, even though it is a flat image. It allows you to see variance over here, over here, over here, all throughout the image, which keeps the image interesting. There's not one spot you can specifically look at and say, oh well, that's exactly like that spot, so why even have it? The boxes again, they're coming into play. Once again, all I did was make a whole bunch of boxes, center them, copy and paste, turn it 45 degree. Let me zoom in a little bit here to show that there is some of those box elements within the main midground, but there wasn't a need for so much of it because the main image is literally almost completely over this. The image. Okay, this image is, I believe, at 60% opacity, which means you can see through this image and clearly see the background or the midground. And that is a major reason why I chose this specific character. This character in game has the invisibility powers, but you can still see her somewhat. At least the player can. Which is why I thought it was perfect for this design. Because you're able to see right through the character, still see the character, and then see the midground layer. And then go past the midground layer and see the background layer. And that was just like beautiful to design. Because some of the middle ground right there, you clearly see the other character, the Cephalon. Move her right there. In between the Cephalon, you can see the background there, right under her, and you can see that the background element that I liked so much that I brought into the midground. You can see that itself. Now, in the Artprint, you will definitely be able to see this. In a t-shirt print, yeah, you will not be able to see that. Most of these elements have to be removed for you to have any type of a visible print. You don't really have to do that with the Artprint. Basically just design the world away. Just another part of the design, I want to emphasize digital character and that this type of dotted line effect helped me to do that. There's also the black line version of it that goes right through there. And if you play the character in game, you know when she goes invisible, she kind of has this kind of cloaky aura type effect. Which is why I wanted to like break away from the main silhouette of her. So the lines, I chose to specifically have them exit the main frame, or the main character. Warframe logo, once again, black version, there's a white version. The white version, there it is. And then there's a line. Now, their logo does not have these lines on it. Well, it's still their logo, but it keeps it looking as if it is a part of the design. It's not separate from it. With that said though, you don't want to go too far with it, so I did a couple of things where the black version of the logo is simply offset slightly, and there is lines following at a 45 degree to the logo. Basically it was the same boxes there, the 5, and I placed in front of the logo, and then I just cut away all the lines I did not need it. Some of the lines are darker, some of the lines are thinner, some of the lines overlap. That way it keeps the same variant that you would see in the background, so that it works more with the overall image. And yet, it still stands out enough so that you can clearly see what or where this overall image is from. We're going to talk now about the t-shirt version just by itself. The t-shirt version is obviously not as complex as the Artprint version. It doesn't have as much layers. There's one opacity layer on this, and it's basically the background layer. So the midground layer in the Artprint version becomes the background layer for the t-shirt version. I'm going to talk more about these arrows. The arrows specifically became solid and less separated as opposed to the Artprint because it's a t-shirt. The smaller print of item you have, let's just say it's gonna wear out faster. If I kept the broken arrow parts with just the small bits of arrows going up, which I kept the file open, like this, and it was printed on any t-shirt, a black t-shirt, a white t-shirt, and pick a color. After a couple of washes, those small elements will start to peel off. And it doesn't matter what they use to print it. And the thing about it too, you don't want to buy a t-shirt and in like 2 weeks, elements of the t-shirt starts to peel off on you. Which is why I did not do that full art version. In the t-shirt version, the main character is also not translucent. She's very opaque. And that's because when printed once again on a t-shirt, you don't know if today you like the white version, or if you like the black version, or if you like it with a red version, or on a red t-shirt I should say. And if you had translucent colors all over it, it would completely change the image. If you have the image on a black t-shirt, it automatically changes the image. You see how the black leads straight into the black of the character? Right here? As opposed to if you have it on a white image, or a white t-shirt, then once again it changes the image. Whereas in the black version there's more of a open part to the character here. You don't have that with this one. There's a definite image, it's a beginning and an end. Now the reason why it's not translucent is because if you print translucent images on a black t-shirt, most of it ends up getting muddy. It ends up looking like this orange will end up looking like dark brown. This blue will end up looking like a bluish brown kind of grayish color. You don't really have that problem with white, but what will happen is you will end up with parts of it that are semi-opaque and semi-translucent because of the way the images are going to end up layering on each other, especially if they're using a silk screen to print the image. I know modern day printing, they just print it almost as like they're printing something out from a printer. So I don't know if they'll have that issue or not. Background layer, main character. Artist name. Yay, me! Alright folks, I hope you like seeing, or at least understanding my design process towards making this t-shirt design. Once again, this video was not here to teach you how to use Illustrator. It's just here to convey the steps involved with going ahead and making a t-shirt design, or in this case, a Artprint. Artprint version, as much detail as you want. When you're working with t-shirts, you have to take into account the material you're working with. You have to take into account the nature of what it's going to be used for. It's going to be washed. It's going to be worn. It's going to get sweat on it. It's probably going to get some food on it for some time. It's going to end up being tugged and pulled and twisted. You do not want super fine lines on a t-shirt design, or it's going to fall apart on you in the first month, and then you're going to call up the printer and ask for your money back. And that's not a good thing. Alright folks, take care. Play and have fun.